So good day everyone. Today we are going to discuss our first topic, our lesson 1, and it is about the introduction to supply chain management. So our subject, distribution and purchasing, is similarly a dissection of what supply chain management is. So we need to understand first what is supply management. So what is supply chain management? Supply chain management is the handling of the entire production flow of a good or service, starting from the raw components all the way to delivering the final product to the consumer. A company creates a network of suppliers, links in the chain that move the product along from the suppliers of raw materials to those organizations that deal directly with the users. So basically, from the word supply chain management, it is simply the management of our products from purchasing of the raw materials until to the distribution of our finished product to our customers. So simply, yun yung magiging focus natin with the supply chain management. Halin sa pagbakal sa raw materials hasta sa pag-deliver sa finished product sa aton nga customers. So supply chain management or SCM is the process and activity of sourcing the raw materials or components an enterprise needs to create a product or service and deliver that product or service to the customer. So yun yung pinag-uusapan natin kanina na yung supply chain management is simula siya sa pagbakal sa raw materials. What is a raw material? It is a material needed to create your finished product. So for example, ang ating finished product is, let's say, turon. So ano ba ang kinahanglan ta ng mga products para makahimo ta sang turon? So syempre kailangan ta tong saging, kailangan ta ang mantika, kinahanglan ta ang kalamay. So those are our basic raw materials. So halin sa pagbakal sa itong mga raw materials nga to, hasta sa paghimo sang turon, hasta sa pag-display or hasta sa pag-deliver sa atong turon sa customer. So yun yung magiging simple description of what SCM is or supply chain management. So how does supply chain management work? Paano ba ang process? Paano ba ang pag-deal kay supply chain management? According to CIO, or it is an international organization, there are 6 components of traditional supply chain management system. So meron tayong 6 na kailangan i-consider with the supply chain management. Although it is a traditional supply chain management system, it is still applicable nowadays. Okay? So what are those 6? We have number 1, planning. Okay? So enterprises need to plan and manage all resources required to meet the customer demand for their product or service. They also need to design their supply chain and then determine which metrics to use in order to ensure the supply chain is efficient, effective, delivers value to customers, and meets enterprise goals. So kahit nasa ang organization or kahit anong process natin, the first important thing is planning. Ang hambaga nila, if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Kung wala ka nagplano, then ang plano mo is hindi magplano, di ba? Kung wala mo natuloy maghimo ang plano or nabagsak ka sa paghimo sang plano, then ang plano mo is mabagsak. So simply, planning is very important. Whatever the circumstance is, whatever the process is, whatever the organization, planning is very, very important. Okay? Next, sourcing. Companies must choose suppliers to provide the goods and services needed to create their product. After suppliers are under contract, supply chain managers use a variety of processes to monitor and manage supplier relationships. Key processes include ordering, receiving, managing inventory, and authorizing supplier payment. So simply in this sourcing, it just define, or it just talk about the how are we going to deal, or how are we going to source out the raw materials that we need. Bakit importante that we consider our relationship with our suppliers? Because whether we like it or not, we need the raw materials. We should have good relationship with our suppliers so that there is a continuous flow of raw materials that we need and walang disruption. That is why big companies are very meticulous in choosing their suppliers, because they want na yung supplier na kukunin nila is going for to be a long-term supplier for the company. So they are choosy. They need to determine kung kaya ba ni supplier ang quantity nga kinahanglan ta, kung okay ba ang quality sa ginahimo nga product ni supplier, okay ba ang terms of payment naton, kung naghahatag ba sila sa aton sang either a justifiable time to pay, kung on account ang atong pagbakal sang raw materials, or naghahatag ba sila sang discount kung cash payment tayo. That is very important in the supply chain management, which is in the part of the sourcing. Next is the making. So after natin nga makuha ang supplies, ang raw materials nga we need, so we need to do the making already. So supply chain managers coordinate the activities required to accept raw materials. So manufacture the product, test for quality, package for shipping, and schedule for delivery. Most enterprises measure quality, production output, and worker productivity to ensure the enterprise creates products that meet quality standards. So making is the process na na-receive ta na ang raw materials hasta sa paghimo ta sang finished product. So amo nang time sa factory, amo nang time sa processing, amo nang time sa mga procedures that we need. That is why there is also a quality assurance department to make sure na yung product na ginaproduce natin is of the quality that we are giving or we assured our customers of. Ang bagay diri, nag-measure talaga ng quality, production output, worker productivity to ensure enterprise creates products that meet quality standards. After syempre natin nahimo ang product, ang finished product, we need to deliver it. Okay? We need to conscientiously deliver our product on the time that we promise it. So, often called logistics, this involves coordinating customer orders, scheduling delivery, dispatching loads, invoicing customers, and receiving payments. It relies on a fleet of vehicles to ship product to customers. So many organizations outsource large parts of the delivery process to specialist organizations, particularly if the product requires special handling or is to be delivered to a consumer's home. So what does that mean lang? Simple lang, yung process of from the factory up to the consumers, that is the part of the delivering process. So pag-deliver kay customer, pag-invoice sa iya, kumbaga pag gin-bill mo siya, pagbaton sang bayad. So what is the process involved in that delivering? Because that is very essential in the supply chain management. Because there are also some customers, kasi we do have two types of customers. We have the personal customers, or yung gamitin nila yung product natin for their personal use, at meron din tayong industrial customers, which means yung product natin is a raw material for their own product. So those, especially those industrial customers, they need an assurance also that we can provide the quality output and we can provide it on time. Similarly with our perspective sa aton nga suppliers. Sabi dere, many organizations outsource large parts of the delivery process to specialist organizations, particularly if the product requires special handling or is to be delivered to a consumer's home. This is very prominent nowadays with JNT, to go, Ano pa ba? LBC, especially ang JNT Gid or Entrego sa there, 'di ba sa Shopee at saka sa Lazada, hindi ang Shopee ang mag-deliver, it's the JNT. So Shopee is a marketing marketing app lang siya, pero hindi siya ang delivery app. Ang Shopee gina-outsource nila ang delivery through JNT, Entrego, minsan LBC, JRS, but usually it's JNT. So that's the delivery section. And after that, we also should have a returning element. So the supplier needs a responsive and flexible network to take back defective, excess, or unwanted products. If the produce is defective, it needs to be reworked or scrapped. If the product is simply unwanted or excess, it needs to be returned to the warehouse for resale. So syempre, importante rin yung mga return. We should be open also, the organization. Dapat open tayo sa mga returns sa mga products natin. Di ba merong ganon, 7 days return warranty, ganon, mga 1 year. So kung defective siya, kailangan scrap na yun siya ng product at saka kung pwede pa maayos, ayusin. Pero kung simply unhappy lang si customer, then ibalik lang siya sa warehouse tapos ibalik yan iwat because there is no problem with the product but hindi lang siya nagustuhan ni customer. And lastly, we have enabling. To operate efficiently, the supply chain requires a number of support processes to monitor information throughout the supply chain and assure compliance with all regulations. So enabling processes include finance, HR, IT, facilities, portfolio management, product design, sales, and quality assurance. So basically, itong enabling is just the support system of the supply chain management. Because hindi lang naman yung operations department yung importante within an organization. It is the entire organization that needs, like for example, finance. There should be a department which will handle the financial activities of the firm. HR to support the human resource, di ba? Kung may naghalin, so mag-hire siya. So IT, if we employ programs or computers, facilities, portfolio management, and so on and so forth. Now, there is a sample of supply chain management. I will leave it to you because it is part of your classwork. So you need to read on that example with Walmart and Procter & Gamble or P&G. So why is supply chain important? Bakit importante siya? Over the last 20 years, the supply chains of manufacturers and retailers have become ever more tightly linked. In many industries, retail sales trigger replenishment orders to manufacturers. Manufacturers with a well-tuned just-in-time supply chain can automatically restock retail shelves as products are sold. So just-in-time, if you have remembered in your TQM, Total Quality Management, diniscuss doon yung just-in-time. It is a Japanese process na ini-employ sa mga production. So I will not go further with that. So as collaboration has increased, additional data from supply chain partners has allowed companies to use advanced analytic tools to further improve results. So examples include, number one, identifying potential problems before they occur. So simply, ito yung ginahambal, common talagang ginahambal nga, prevention is better than cure. So when a customer orders more product than the manufacturer can deliver, the traditional response has been to short the order. So this leaves the buyer feeling unimportant and convinced the manufacturer's service is poor. Manufacturers who anticipate the shortage before the buyer is disappointed may be able to offer a substitute product or other incentive to keep the buyer happy. So of course, kung may order si buyer na pangmalakihan, especially like what I have said, yung mga example natin for industrial customers, So pag malakihan yung order natin nila, but we cannot comply with it. So pumunta sila sa atin, nag-try umorder ng for example 1,000 units, pero we can only produce 500 units or simply 700 or 800 units, then dapat ma-prepared, usually dapat prepared tayo to offer substitute products or give them incentives. What are substitute products? These are products similar to ours na with the same use. For example, kung wala ka sa what do you mean? What are similar substitute products? So, for example, di ba, usually, dati telephone. So, kung magtawag through communication. Kung wala, you can call using the cell phone and call the telephone number. So, that's an example of a substitute product or other incentives like give them freebies, give them longer terms of payment instead ng 1 year to pay lang, gawin mo siyang 2 years to pay, just for them to feel great to our services. Because if we lose customers like those, it's a big loss for us. And kung magbalita yan ng ibang customers, then they will leave our organization as well and go to our competitors. Second is optimizing price dynamically. So seasonal products, particularly fashion products, have a limited shelf life. Any that don't sell by the end of the season are scrapped or sold at deep discounts to empty the warehouse. Airlines, hotels, and other companies with a limited but perishable product adjust prices dynamically to meet demand. While this is more difficult with clothing and other products where the supply can vary widely, similar forecasting techniques can improve the margin. So the important thing about here is the forecasting. So what is forecasting? It is, di ba, may mga weather forecasts. So when we say weather forecast, it means ito yung mga scientific prediction, what will be the weather the next day, the next week, the next month. So yun siya, based siya sa weather station na for example sabihin na tomorrow will be 80% rainy, 20% sunny. So similar to that in business, forecasting is very, very important skill. So we need to forecast kung for example, amuning product mga pila ang mabaligya ta. For example, ang product mo is ice cream, so malamig. Kung tig-urulan, damo ba magbakal? Pila ang potential na magbakal kung tig-urulan? Kung summer, pila? Di ba usually mas damo sa magbakal sa ice cream during summer season rather than rainy season. So we need to check on that. We need to forecast it so that wala ta sa may masayang na product at saka ma-optimize natin siya. Because optimization is very important in business. And lastly, it is improving the allocation of available to promise inventory. So today's tools dynamically allocate resources and schedule work based on the sales forecast, actual orders, and promised delivery of raw materials. So manufacturers are able to confirm a product delivery date when the order is placed, significantly reducing incorrectly filled orders. So similarly to what we have talked kanina with forecasting. So we should allocate our available resources to what is being ordered. So kailangan ma-maximize siya. Equal, usually dapat equal yung request natin sa capacity requests or orders from the customers from our capacity to produce the goods. So it should be best if kung kaya ta makabaligya sa kaya ta mag-produce ng 1,000 units, hopefully we can get 1,000 orders for 1,000 units. Or kung may orders nga 500 units, dapat 500 units ang aton nga i-produce. So that's maximization. So these are the references that I've used for our discussion, and I hope you understand something or learned something from this discussion. So thank you, everyone.